Hare Krishna. Good evening, everyone. At least here in Bulgaria, it's already evening. So I'm very happy to be with you today. So these are very testing times, I would say. That there's a lot of fear in people. Therefore, I was thinking to speak today and also next week about the importance of controlling the mind. So therefore we will mainly study verses of the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is about yoga. Yoga means that one focuses the mind on Krishna. Without focus of the mind, the Lord Srila Prabhupada writes in a purport, yoga is just a farce. So yoga is meant to help us to connect with Krishna. And that connection with Krishna is made to the mind. That if our mind is connected with through false ego to so many things in this world, then we will suffer because we are connected with this material world. What Krishna says about the material world, it's a temporary place and a place of suffering. That's what it is. And we must tolerate, we must train the mind to not take this temporary material world full of suffering too serious, but learn to focus on our connection with Krishna. So, before we read from the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we will start with looking at verse 5 from the sixth chapter. We glorify Lord Krishna with the following words. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Chapter 6. I read the Sanskrit and Srila Prabhupada's translation. Udaret atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayat atmeva yatmano bandhur atmeva ripur atmana. One must deliver oneself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So on the screen you see the commentary of Baladev Vidyabhushan, one of the important Vaishnava commentators on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Baladev Vidyabhushan was a disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. That Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur instructed also that Sharanadav Babaji Maharaj. And Baladev writes, one should deliver the soul by the mind and not degrade it. The mind is a friend of the soul and its enemy as well. And that's interesting. Those who followed the seminar on Bhagavad Gita we gave a few weeks ago in South London, that may remember that at the end of the third chapter, Krishna says, You must control the mind by the intelligence. Intelligence must instruct the mind to act as a spirit soul. To act as a spirit soul, what does it mean? Acting according to the scriptures. And the essence of the scriptures is devotional service. Because we are spirit souls, we should act in relation with Krishna, because we are part and parcels from him. And that's controlling the mind. So this verse tells us here, one should deliver the soul by the mind, not degrade it, and the mind can be the friend of the soul or his enemy. That we have, next slide. Baladevidya Bhushan, he clarifies this. He said, yes, one should not submerge the Atma in samsara by the mind attached to sense objects. So here, Lord Baladevidya Bhushan is explaining but when the mind is the enemy, submerging the Atma, the spirit soul, in samsara by the mind. We see the world through our mind. And our experience of the world is also an experience in our mind. But that experience is given to us by material nature, which brings us into illusion and makes us think we are this body. And our sense perception is limited to the power of sense perception of the senses that we got. And these senses become attached to sense objects. So, if Krishna explains in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Yam Yam Vapi Smramavam Tayantante Kalebram, whatever consciousness you have at the time of death, that will you attain again. So what consciousness do we need at the time of death to go back to the spiritual world? Krishna explains in the 3rd chapter. You must understand that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord and is meant to be used in the service of Krishna as a sacrifice. So everything belongs to Krishna and is meant to be used in his service. If the mind tells us that sense objects are all for our enjoyment, then for that enjoyment we need a body. Then we create a new body. Thus creating new body. Samsara means getting new bodies. So we should not commit this, we could call it a crime. A crime to think this belongs to me. Then we are a stena, a thief. But it's also a crime towards the Atma, because you forces your real self to take bodies again and again. So we become entangled. Next slide, yeah. You see this tree, we get hands and eyes in the tree. The soul becomes entangled by this false consciousness created by the mind. Srila Prabhupada writes, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. And the best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. Engagement in Krishna consciousness is the real business of the spirit soul. That's a loving relationship. False ego means thinking this is mine. If you think something is yours and for your enjoyment, you are in trouble in this world. Because all your actions will get reactions in the future, and you will suffer. Because everything you are attached to in this world is temporary, and we will be disconnected from it in due course. We think, my wife, my son, and so on. These relationships are temporary. That we have got so many relationships with in our previous lives, and it's all gone soon. That relationships are valuable if we help each other to become disentangled from this material nature. Disentanglement means giving up our attachment and aversions to this world. False ego means likes and dislikes. Krishna consciousness means we do what Krishna pleases. We follow the scriptures, that without attachment to the result, without attachment to sense objects, and without sense of proprietorships of things in this world. Next slide. Here, that brings us to a reflection. Let's look in our own heart. During 24 hours a day, how much my time is involved with false ego, making plans for our security, planning things to get more profit. So every action not done for the pleasure of Krishna means we are entangled in this world. That it forces us, false ego forces us to act according to our attachments. That it becomes like an addiction. Like someone who drinks alcohol, he becomes addicted. One becomes addicted to sense gratification. That to objects in this world. So by that we can understand to what extent our mind is controlled. That next slide. Now, the next verse explains what it means. The mind is my enemy, the mind is my friend. Srila Prabhupada, his translation. Bandhu atmatmanastasya yanatmaivatmana chita. Anatmastu satritve varte tatmaiva satruvat. For one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. For one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. What is it like to live day in, day out with an enemy? You are fearful, right? You don't feel all right. So if your mind is enemy, that makes you fearful. The mind is within. That we see today with the coronavirus and so on. People become fearful, but they don't accept Krishna's words. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matras versus the Kantya Shitashna Sukha Dukada Agamapayina Nitya Stam Stitikshas Vabharata. That one should tolerate happiness and distress as summer and winter comes. So this distress today with the coronavirus, that means it's integral part of the material world. Krishna says, yes, this world is a world of suffering. And suffering comes and goes. And we must tolerate. And we must train the mind not to go in this duality, just tolerate. It's all temporary. That if we don't train the mind, then it becomes an enemy. We will become very fearful to lose our lives, but we don't lose our lives. The life is the soul, and the soul is eternal. It's temporary. Like Arjuna was fearful, I'm going to kill Bhishmadev. But if he would not have killed Bhishmadev, would he still be living? No, it's all temporary. That time is going quick. That we must accept that and follow Krishna's instruction. Tolerate this. Don't go in this duality. And fix your mind on Krishna in devotional service. Make it your friend. So the next slide. The mind becomes an unconquered, and it becomes an unconquered enemy. It's very distrustful. As long as the mind remains an unconquered enemy, Srila Prabhupada said, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, and so on. So that's reality. We become the servant of this body and the senses. And we think this is all in all. This is a big illusion. Now, verse in the purport of 6.6, Srila Prabhupada writes, a real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma in the heart and then following his dictation. Now, what is important here is that if you remember what Krishna said in the second chapter, Bhogasparya prasaknam taya pritasedasam. If one is attached to sense gratification, then one's mind will be grossly disturbed. Because sense gratification makes attachment to it, make one attached to the body and identify with the body. And the mind is always disturbed because sense gratification does not satisfy the soul. It's temporary. Like eating a pizza, 10 minutes. And then the problem starts again. It's flickering. It's flickering. That focus the mind on Krishna becomes practically impossible. It's already very difficult to do that constantly unless the heart is purified. First, therefore, in the beginning of this chapter, Krishna has said to Arjuna, first you must work or perform devotional service. And then the heart will become purified. And then this disturbance goes. Then you can fix the mind on Krishna. But he warns, don't control your mind in the second chapter. Even one of the roaming senses can divert you, and you are in trouble. That if you meditate, dayate visyapumsam sanghasteshu bhajayate sangha sanyate kam krodha vijayate, Krishna explains. You meditate on enjoying sense objects, then you you will become attached and lust develops and so on. So what you meditate on this world, that will give you happiness and distress. But if we meditate on Krishna, then we become detached from this world. And that's the purpose, Srila Prabhupada said, of the Krishna consciousness movement, is to train the mind to be always thinking of Krishna and never forget him. That training, but to train the mind, one must hear of Krishna with attention. If one does not, and one is hearing and one mind is too disturbed, there is no attention. So one must make the hearing a priority and start following Krishna's instructions. That at the end of the second chapter, Krishna says, a yogi, it's like the rivers flowing to the ocean. And a yogi's mind, a pure devotee's mind is always fixed on Krishna, on pleasing Krishna, and nothing else. That samadhi, and that samadhi can be attained if we follow Krishna's instructions here in the Bhagavad Gita, and we try now to focus on Krishna's instruction, how to control the mind. What your mind is absorbed in, that will mean give the quality of your happiness in this world. That if you are absorbed in sense objects, you will suffer. But the reality is, everything in this world is done by Krishna. And Krishna consciousness means connect everything again with Krishna. In your mind, we have to make that connection, a connection of reality. If we can, that is a different vision. That Prahlad Maharaj speaks also about that. That he says, yes, the people have a separatist mentality. They want things to see separate from Krishna. One man came to Srila Prabhupada and he said this, Krishna he said Krishna is immoral. He dances with the wives of others. And Srila Prabhupada became very grave. And he said, you are immoral because your wife belongs to Krishna. And so that's reality. Everything belongs to Krishna. All living entities. So that reconnecting with Krishna is important. And that reconnection can only be done if we make it a priority to hear and focus on Krishna. If you chant a Hare Krishna mantra, you must focus on hearing and not think of anything else. If the mind wanders, we have to bring it back. And then when you chant with that attention, you will feel satisfied after that. If you had a good japa, you feel fixed up. But it's not easy to control the mind while chanting. We can try to control, and the mind wanders and bring it back. But what's needed is, if you put affection for Krishna, love for Krishna in your chanting, you see the chanting as a connection of love with Krishna, and you put all your love in it, then you will see it will be easy to control the mind. Otherwise, we try to control the mind with all our force. But if we put love, affection, a little pretty purvakam, Krishna says, a little love, then it becomes much more easy. So, this is a prayer from Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. He was very, very renounced. He was one of the most renounced followers of Lord Chaitanya. And he wrote a scripture called MANAH SIKSA, instructions for the mind. So this is one instruction to control the mind. He prays to the mind. So that's interesting. So I met one devotee and she said, when I came to Krishna consciousness, this small book, MANAH SIKSA, was one of the first books I wrote. And when I read, and she said, I read this and it sounded very strange for me because he's praying to the mind. Then she started to understand, I'm not the mind. Many philosophers, they say, I think, so I am. So they think they are the mind. But here, Raghunath Das Goswami is praying to the mind. So that's the first thing you have to understand, that the mind is our instrument. In the material world, we have a mind which is different from our real self. In the spiritual world, the thinking, feeling, willing is done by the soul, but we lost that capacity. It is done now by the mind. But the mind is an instrument that we use, and we must control the instrument that we are using. Otherwise, it will bring us in trouble. So he's praying to the mind. My dear mind, you must categorically relinquish all frivolous and mundane talk, which is like a prostitute who steals all your intelligence and resolve. So you have that picture here on the screen of of these little animals that's croaking, making big noise. The frog is making big noise, inviting the serpent of death to come and eat them. They are inviting their death. If we speak about mundane things and forget Krishna, then this mundane talk makes our mind our enemy. It keeps us in this world. We should not engage our mind in mundane talk about this person has done that, saying, you know the latest news and this and that. And certainly we should not do that about devotees. Should be always respectful about devotees. Otherwise, it's worse. It steals our intelligence. It brings us deeper and deeper in the illusion of this material world. So therefore, learn to fix your mind on Krishna. You go into the kitchen, you cook for Krishna, pray to Srimati Radharani, and be focused. Every step of the cooking, that is first class, because always think it's for Krishna. I'm going to please Krishna with that. Don't think about mundane things into the kitchen, because then all the mundane talk and that mundane consciousness enters and pollutes what you are preparing for Krishna. Krishna wants our consciousness of love. And then you put some other consciousness in the food and give it to Krishna. All the garbage of your mind. We cannot do that. We are the consciousness. And it's our consciousness that dovetailed with love for Krishna that we offer through the food. So that's a subtle. That the mind is subtle. We have to control the mind by engaging it in Krishna's service. So that's an important instruction here from Raghunath Das Goswami. He prays to his son, to his own mind, give that up. So we should pray also to Krishna, please, let me not do that. Let me control this mind. I want to give that up. But first we have to recognize that we are doing that. And rectify ourselves. So that's part of the process, that internal reflection. Next verse, because Raghunath Das Goswami continues, my dear mind, in this material life you are attacked by lust, which is like a gang of thugs that waylay innocent pilgrims, strangling you with strong, terrible ropes in the form of distress, pain, and futile endeavors. The mind let you think, if you do that, you will become happy. But there's no becoming happy in this world. It's a place of suffering. That things are coated with a little sense of happiness sometimes, which is very short. But that attachment to that, it makes your illusion deeper. So we must give up this tendency of the mind, that the mind is attacked by lust. That's what Krishna said in the 3rd chapter. It's attacked by lust. And lust takes away your intelligence, makes you identifying with the body and thinking you have something to achieve in this world that will make you happy. The biggest illusion. So it's strangling us and gives us distress, pain, and futile endeavors. Because if you are attached to something, then whatever you are attached to in this world is temporary and it's a source of misery. So it gives you distress, pain, futile endeavor. If we are distressed, then that's caused by the illusion that the mind has created. But Krishna consciousness means getting out of this insanity. Understand what's going on in this world. Now, 6.6. This is some reflection from Srila Prabhupada. The point is, am I a servant of my own lust, anger, and greed, or do I follow the instructions of the spiritual master and Krishna? Srila Prabhupada was focused on the order of his spiritual master to preach in the Western world. He was so focused on it. And it could not be, his mind could not be deviated from a moment from that mission. That if happiness and distress, he did not care for it. But whatever happened, it continued. He was not discouraged by all the difficulties that he went through. He did it out of love for his spiritual master in Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada did also not suffer because things were not going his way. He knew it's Krishna's way. And whatever he does in my life is the ultimate good and will lead us to success. So that faith we must have. Whatever good or bad happens in my life is the mercy of Krishna to help me to connect with him, to help me to engage in his service. Now, it's text 7, and that's the last verse we will discuss today, and then next week we will continue with a second series of important instructions on the mind from the 6th chapter. But this is an important verse. It points to the goal of the yogis. Citatmana prasantasya paramatma samahita, citasnasika dukashuta tamana pamanaya. For one who has conquered the mind, the soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So here, Lord Krishna says what was the perfection of mind control, what does it mean, and what are symptoms. These symptoms are described here. But to understand that, we can read Srila Prabhupada's purport, which is on the screen now. When one's mind is fixed on a superior nature, one has no alternative than to follow the dictation of the Supreme. So one is fixed on the superior nature, means one follows Krishna's instructions on Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita and the scriptures are the same as the instructions from Paramatma within, not different, the same Krishna. The one who is fixed on that superior nature, that the superior nature means Krishna's instructions, that connects us with the superior nature. Mahatmanastumam porta devim praktyashrita. The great souls, they take shelter of they take shelter of the divine energy. How do they take shelter? They surrender to Krishna. They surrender means surrendering to Krishna means following his instructions, following the dictation of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, following the dictation of Paramatma in the heart. So, and that's a controlled mind. Therefore, in the 3rd chapter, it's explained you should control the mind, the mind with transcendental intelligence. And the effect of controlling the mind is that the mind becomes purified, that you come out of illusion, knowledge, and when the heart is pure, one is come to the Brahma Bhuta platform, the spiritual platform, and is prasanatma, peaceful, one does not care for anything in this world anymore, in the sense that there is no hankering of lamentation, nothing to achieve in this world, and nothing to lament about, because everything is temporary. We know that our real nature is a spirit soul and our relationship with Krishna. And we can relate with others with that vision, understanding that they're all also spirit souls in a temporary body. En dat is Vidya Vinaya Stampane Brahmana Kaap Hastini Suna Shevas Vipapakashapana Samadakshana is explained in the 5th chapter. One sees that spiritual reality, the spirit soul and the super soul, in the heart of a Brahman, a dog, and so on. So that's the effect of a controlled mind. The heart becomes purified, and one gets darshan of Krishna in the heart. So these are the symptoms of one who is satisfied by such knowledge and realization. That a person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. So gold and pebbles. For a devotee, of course, we will use gold in the service of Krishna, but gold and pebbles, it's matter, temporary matter. So the devotee is not interested in what is temporary, but what's valuable. Valuable is what's eternal, what's spiritual. We are spiritual. The rest, all temporary. And then in verse 6, 9, and that's interesting, there Krishna gives even the consciousness of one who is more advanced. Srinmitra Rudashina Madhyastad Vesha Bandesu Sadhu Sapavasu Sama Buddha Vasishyati. The position of seeing equally meditators, envious friends, enemies, pious sinners is superior of seeing dirt and gold as the same. So that's higher. One sees that friends and enemies, they are all spirit souls. They are both bewildered by the duality of this world of I and mine, but they are spirit souls. So there are in reality on the spiritual platform no enemies, no friends. One is envious because one sees one is envious because of false ego. So pious and sinners, those who are pious, they go to heavenly planets. They are still taking birth in the material world. The higher planets is also a place of suffering, and and the sinners, they go to hell, is also a place of suffering. But they are spirit souls, and one sees them equally. One feels compassion for their absorption in the duality of the material nature. And that absorption makes one take birth again and suffer. So that's, one sees, yes, that it's a superior a way superior than just seeing dirt and gold as the same, but seeing the spiritual qualities in all living entities. So in 6.10, and we will start there next time, Do not anchor after unnecessary material things that entangle one by feelings of possessiveness. So a devotee lives simple, just what he needs to keep body and soul together and perform devotional service. He doesn't want anything more in this world. It's just the cause of entanglement, taking himself the owner and the controller. So become free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. So this is the first part of Lord Krishna's instructions on controlling the mind, which is very essential in devotional service. Because after the 6th chapter, the 7th chapter starts, which is the first chapter of the 6 middle chapters of the Bhagavad Gita about bhakti. It was the first verse of the 7th chapter. That, how does it begin? Maya sakta manaparta yoga yonga matashvasa samsyam samagram yatashikma shitachvina. It says, Arjun, here now, that what I'm going to say is important. By focusing by focusing your mind on me and become fully conscious of me, you can know me. So that's the first thing. If we want to love Krishna, we must know Krishna. And that starts with focusing our mind on hearing about Krishna. If we always hear, our mind will be controlled. And when we follow Krishna's instructions after hearing them, then we will remain safe on the path of devotional service. So are there any questions? Otherwise, we will finish with chanting the Nrsimha prayer and pray for the Supreme Lord that He may protect us in these very difficult times, so that we can use this lifetime we got, but whatever our remaining life means in the service and Krishna, and make spiritual advancement. Namaste Narasimhaya, Namaste Narasimhaya, Palada la da da, Palada la da, Sevo Vakshaha, Yanyana Sevo Vakshaha, Siddhatankana Kalan, Siddhatankana Kalan, Ito Nishinga Parato Nishinga, Ito Nishinga Parato Nishinga, Yato Yato Yami Tato Nishinga, Yato Yato Yami Tato Nishinga, Vahe Nishinga Hitaye Nishinga, Vahe Nishinga Hitaye Nishinga Madhim Sharanam Prapade, Nishinga Madhim Sharanam Prapade, Abhagala Kamala Varena Kama Bhuta Shinyam Kalitaya Nyakasipo Kesava Devta Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadesare Jaya Jagadesare Jaya Jagadesare Kara Kamala Varena Kama Bhuta Shinyam Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, see you next week, Krishna willing. Jai Prabhupada.